guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with an exciting video all about historical romances. Bridgerton Season 2 is releasing this Friday. I'm super excited. I love historical romances so much, and I love what Bridgerton has done for historical romances, gotten new readers into the genre, making it more popular, and so I know that people oftentimes will pick up the Bridgerton series and have no idea where to go next. So I have some recommendations for books to pick up after you have either read the Bridgerton series or watched the Bridgerton show and just want more of that genre. So I have some that have the same kind of family sibling dynamics or have the same situations that they get in, like needing to find a wife, enemies to lovers, things like that. We have fake dating. I have a good amount here, and I also have already done this video once last year when season 1 came out, so I'll link that down below. But these are all new books that I'm recommending, so please let me know if you are excited for season 2 like I am and what your favorite Bridgerton book is. But I will go ahead and get to the recommendations I have to read when you're done reading Bridgerton. The first 2 books that I have are books that are by a beloved author in the historical romance community. She is a classic, probably I think around the same time that Julia Quinn was publishing, and that is Lisa Kleypas. And the first series I'm recommending is the Hathaway series. I've only read the first 2 books, but I'm dying to read more because this has the family dynamic that I love in the Bridgerton series, and these set up every romance so well. Like, I was dying to get book 2, and now I'm dying to get the rest of the books. I believe there are 5 in this series, and in the first one, our hero is actually a self-made man. Amelia is actually trying to find her brother because he is a drunk and he has inherited a title, but he's very damaged because I believe he lost the love of his life, and that's all I'll say about that. It's been a while since I've read this book, but she is trying to find him, and so she goes to this club. Cam owns that club. She runs into him and things happen, and then she goes to her family's estate, which is like really crumbling because her brother inherited this estate that like no one else was getting, and didn't even know they were gonna get it, and so it's like falling apart. There's literally like a hive of bees in the wall, which was, I vividly remember the scene being terrifying. But Cam is also at the estate, and I believe he's at the neighboring estate, and he just like is everywhere she is. This romance was so good, but we also see a lot of the siblings dynamics, like her brother is just falling apart and he can't confront life or anything like that because of how heartbroken he is. So he does have his own book eventually, but we have Amelia with our heroine in here, and then we finally get Wynn's story. So Wynn is very sickly, and so she has to try to recover and has a doctor that's helping her, but Kev has been pretty much adopted by their family, and he is Romani, which is the same as Cam in here, and he has always had this connection with Wynn, and so she goes off to, I believe, like find some way to like help her illness, and she comes back and they have to confront their feelings, but also she comes back with a doctor that kind of likes her, and so Kev gets very, very jealous, and I really enjoy this one too. These are just such good romances. Lisa Kleypas is one of the queens of historical romance. She knows how to write them so well, and I really do love her older books, so check the series out. But the next book I want to recommend just super gives me the Viscount Who Loved Me vibes, and that's why I'm recommending this one. I have not read book 2, which is probably her most famous one, but Then Came You is a hate to love romance where one of them has preconceived notions of the other. So in the Viscount Who Loved Me, Kate hates Anthony before she even meets him because of his reputation, and here our hero is the one who hates our heroine because she does not care about society's rules whatsoever. The opening scene is literally her jumping into the Thames to grab her hat at a boat party, and our hero is like disgusted. He is like, that is so appalling, but he's gonna court her sister. I don't remember if they're like actually engaged yet or not, but he is literally in the middle of courting her sister, and they go to a house party, and he falls for her, even though he's courting her sister, and it is so good. Like, he actually falls first and is like adamantly in love with her. I love this so much, highly recommend, and it has those hate to love vibes, and it just has like so much about Bridgerton that I love in this book. And this one came out, I believe, in '93. Like, this is one of her older ones, and it's just so good, and it reads very much like historicals that come out today, so definitely check this one out. The next one I forgot to grab, it's sitting over there. I could not do a historical romance recommendation video without talking about Amanda Quick. Amanda Quick is iconic. I love her. Well, okay, I've only read one book I've loved by her, but I've only read 2. I need to read more of her backlist, but I highly recommend Ravished because it has the same fun banter and just fun story that Bridgerton does. Like when I read Julia Quinn's romances, I'm going to smile and laugh through the entire thing. Sure, some of them are more serious than others, but there is just something like really fun and light about them as well. That's the same with Ravished. So our heroine is really into fossils. She has been going to this cave and digging up fossils, and she notices that there are like bandits that are hiding stolen goods in her caves. So she confronts the Viscount, I think. I don't remember if it was a Viscount or a Marquess. He is some titled guy who like owns the land. And so she confronts him and she's like, hey, I need your help. There's these guys doing illegal stuff in my caves. And so he's like, okay, like let me deal with it. I'll figure it out. She doesn't let him deal with it. She meddles her way into everything and they end up being stranded in these caves together and her reputation is ruined. Enter marriage of convenience. He has a very bad reputation though because his fiance died and people think that he was the one who did it. And so people are terrified of him in society. They whisper about him and gossip about him, and there's a scene where our heroine sticks up for him and she's like, do not talk about my husband like that. And they're like newly married, not even married for love, and it is just the best romance. I love this so much and it was just so fun. Like even though it's a historical romance with a marriage of convenience and he is very brooding and has this did he a killer, is he not reputation, it was just fun and it was adorable. So easy to fly through. Could not recommend Amanda quick enough, especially with Ravished. Another series that I absolutely love and I feel like is an underrated historical romance author. I'm actually almost finished with book 2 and absolutely loving it. I'm listening to the audio right now, is the Wallflowers and Rogue series by Lenora Bell. These are just so good for a wallflower romance, and this one actually has a marriage of convenience. That's why I was recommending it, but I just really want to recommend this because it's so good and I feel like if you like the Bridgerton vibes, you'll like these. So in this one, our heroine inherits a bookstore and it's so good. Our hero's like a carpenter, contractor. He works in construction. He's working outside of her house and he's very flirty. She is spying on him, drops her glasses out the window and he gets them and climbs up her window and gives them to her. There's immediate attraction and banter, but he has seen a different social class romance before not work out with his parents, and so he is so against that, and she is of high class, he is not, and he's like, this could never work. So he has seen it not work and he has a lot of reservations about it, but she has inherited this bookstore and she's helped bring it back to working condition because it's very, very like rotting wood everywhere. It's very dangerous. So she hires him to help out with the bookstore and he builds her bookshelves, and it's just such a good class difference romance, which I think would be a great romance if you love Benedict's book, which is book 3. He does fall in love with someone of lower class and that is a huge point of contention in their relationship, and for the entirety of the book until like literally the end is the fact that they have a difference of social class. So this one is like that one, but then I love this book so much so far. So this one's the one I'm currently reading, and this follows a group of Wallflower Friends. And so in this one, it is one of the friends and her father has inherited the dukedom, but he doesn't want it. Like he is so adamantly against having this dukedom because no one else is available, and I think like his brother and his brother's son died, so he's inheriting it and he's like, I don't want this because that means he has to remarry because his previous wife passed away and he only has a daughter. And so they're at this ball and the daughter's like, you have to pick someone to marry, like you need to have heirs, because she's a woman and she is actually super into a winery. The land that they have, her mother was really into. I believe her mother was French, if I remember correctly. I don't remember specifically where her mother was, but she is really into wine and the wine business that they have on their land. But a man shows up and he's like, I'm an illegitimate child and I'm next in line for the dukedom. And her father, of course, is like, yes, welcome, be the duke. And she is skeptical because he also has other plans for her land where her grapes are. And so then, because he's going to inherit the dukedom, they're like, well, isn't it normal for someone outside of the family who comes and inherits the title to marry the eldest daughter to keep the money in the family? So this one has just been so good. It is definitely not hate to love, but like dislike to love, because she is so put off by him, but they have immediate chemistry. They actually meet and share a kiss before she even knows who he is, and it is so good. I really, really enjoy these two books. They have tropes that are definitely in the Bridgerton series. Another historical romance series that is pretty recent, so the first one came out last year, and then we've had two more, and they follow siblings. Let me put these in order. It is the Gilded Age Heiresses series, and these all actually are Gilded Age romances in America, which definitely reminds me of Joanna Shoup. So I recommended Joanna Shoup's Uptown Girl series last video. You have to read Joanna Shoup. I just got to talk to her yesterday, interview her on my channel. She is amazing. But these remind me of those so much because these are Gilded Age, so they are late 1800s, and they have a lot of room for self-made men and money, and it's just different vibes. So these are not in Regency London, which is what Bridgerton is, but these follow siblings. And so the first one actually is with a fighter. So if you love in the show when Simon's like bare knuckle fighting and we have like the bare knuckle fighting scenes, this one opens with a scene like that. And so the hero actually kisses the heroine when she goes and sees one of the bare knuckle fights. And so this one is a 4-star read for me. Like, it was good, but it wasn't my favorite. But these two were like immediate 5 stars. This one, our heroine actually like has a huge part in her family's business, which is an Ironworks business, and her family wants to marry off their youngest daughter, who's an American heiress, and the Duke has recently inherited this title, and he is the fighter, and he doesn't have any money, so he's like, I need to marry her, and she's like, you're not marrying my sister, and so they end up marrying instead. But then the sister has her romance here, and the father is still trying to marry her off, and our hero actually wants to marry her for her money. She doesn't know that, and so he asks the father, and the father's like, no. And so he actually has someone else in mind that the heroine absolutely detests. It kind of reminds me of the Nigel Daphne storyline in Bridgerton, with the heroine in here and the guy that wants to marry her, because he's like literally wants to try to ruin her to force her into marriage, the guy that like her dad wants her to marry. So our hero decides to help her run away, but he is really planning on kidnapping her, taking her to Gretna Green in Scotland to marry, and then he like falls for her on their trip and realizes that he shouldn't be doing this, and it is so amazing, like so good. I absolutely love this one. And then I just finished reading book 3, and this one is a fake engagement, just like in season 1 of Bridgerton, in The Duke and I. Our hero and heroine, they actually meet trying to track down the sister because she is best friends with her, the heroine in here. They go together to track her down and save her. Nothing happens then, but they are just really intrigued by each other. And so they start spending more time together, and our heroine actually helps women who are single mothers and who are looked down upon by society. She helps them have housing and find jobs. Our hero is like in charge of his company as well, his father's company. So his father has a near-death experience, and he's like, I realize I need more heirs. So he's like, you need to marry and have babies so that I am fine with like what I'm leaving if I die, and if you don't, I'm gonna take the company away from you. And so the hero's like, seriously? And our heroine is not being taken seriously because she's actually a widow, but people don't like a single woman doing her business and like her philanthropy charity kind of thing. And so she needs a man to be seen, to be taken seriously. So they decide to fake engage so that she gets more support and money for her charity, and so that his father gets off his back. Lily came up to get some water. And it's their romance, and this does heavily deal with infertility, so please know that she is infertile, and that is something that definitely affects her ability to be in a relationship and her willingness to start a marriage. And she knows that having heirs is really important to the hero's father and why he is having this fake engagement in the first place. So that is a big part of this romance, but these are amazing. I'm obsessed with them. Please read them. Then I have, of course, I couldn't do a video without talking about Lorraine Heath. I have 2 of her series for this video. First one is the Once Upon a Dukedom series. This is her newest series. There are 2 books out now. Book 3 comes out soon, and they are everything. So we have a duke trying to find a wife, and super like Viscount Love Me, and he actually puts like an advertisement in the paper for that. He's actually courting the heroine of this book before he gets his own book. So in this one, our heroine, she needs to get married because she needs to inherit this place that I believe her grandmother left for her, and it's super close to her heart, but she has to marry a titled person in order to inherit that. That is like stipulated in the will, I think. So she is like, I'll court the Duke. Like, sure, why not? And her friend's brother is someone she's into. He is not titled. He's like he wants to open a club. And so he knows he's like falling for her too, but he knows this place is so important to her and that she needs to marry this duke. And it's so heartbreaking. There's actually a time jump in here, and this is just very angsty. And I feel like the later Bridgerton books get very angsty, so this one definitely I feel like relates to those. But also this one is the duke who is courting the person in the first one. He falls in love with his assistant. So Penny Peace is his assistant, and she like basically helps run his life. She is supposed to help him find a wife. So she goes to balls with him to help vet the options, see who would be good for him to marry, and they fall for each other, and there's mutual pining in here, and it is the best ever. Like, I feel like we had mutual pining in The Viscount Who Loved Me when they were refusing to admit their feelings for each other, but like you knew that they liked each other. This one has that. It's social class difference as well. It's so good. Please read this one. Then I have the Scoundrels of St James series by Lorraine Heath, because this one, I feel like they are so close that they pretty much are siblings, but they grew up on the streets together, and they are all very protective of the one heroine of the series. So it's 3 men and 1 woman, and then the first one, he's determined to marry the woman because he loves her, but he confuses that love for romantic love. It's really just like protective familial love. And so our heroine in this book, he recently has inherited a title because he is like this lost child, and someone finds him and is like, hey, you are next in line. So he inherits this title, but he has a really bad past. They all have really dark pasts in this series, and our hero has a reputation for having killed someone. Our heroine needs someone killed, so to protect a friend, so she goes and confronts him and says, will you kill this person for me? And he's like, you are nuts. But he's super into her, and he's like, well, my fiance, who is the heroine who grew up in the streets with him, she needs to know how to act in society because I'm titled now. She's going to be my wife. She needs to know. So can you please teach her, and I'll help you take care of this person, and that's good. But they fall for each other instead, and it's so good, and I just really loved it. And they are just so protective of each other, though. All these people, they grew up in the streets together, and so we follow their stories, and most of them are social class difference, but I really love how all of them have this drive behind them, especially the heroine in her book. She works for, I believe it's the casino. She is so wealthy. Like, she is a self-made woman. She is super intelligent and smart, and I really love that about her. And I feel like this show of Bridgerton does really well in showing women taking control of their lives and wanting more than just being a wife, especially with Eloise's character and even Penelope's character. Like, they are getting things done, and that's what they want to do. And so I think that this series is great. Also, if you want that bond between these people who grew up together and more of a dark, damaged storyline. Then one that I have that is kind of similar to The Viscount Who Loved Me is Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy, because again, we have someone courting someone else. Our heroine's a widow, and she has stepchildren who are around her age, because in this time period, women married young, and they oftentimes married older men. And so her husband dies, and so she is a widow, and she has a lot of freedom, especially with relationships. So widows are allowed now to have affairs, and their reputations aren't going to be ruined. So she goes to this inn, and all the rooms are taken, and all these guys are being like really lewd and gross about the fact that she needs a place to stay, and they're like, you can stay with me. And so this duke steps in and is like, hey, like, I will let you stay in my room. One thing turns into another. They have a really passionate night together. Little does she know, when she arrives at her stepchildren's house, which is where her stepdaughter and stepson are, she and the stepdaughter are basically best friends. They're the same age. The Duke is betrothed to her stepdaughter. And now, I mean, you could maybe you consider it cheating, but he wasn't actually like, it was on his way to the betrothal. And I mean, like, people had mistresses all the time. I mean, look at Anthony in season 1 of Bridgerton. So I didn't feel like weird about it. I didn't feel like consider it cheating, but she realizes the guy that she had a one-night stand with is engaged to her daughter, and they're all at the house party together. So this one is just so good. I was obsessed with it. Book 2 I enjoyed. It was his best friend's story. Book 3 I'm super excited for. It comes out I think at the end of March. Maybe it comes out soon. And so I just love this book so much. This is one of my favorite historicals that I rave about all the time, so check it out. And the last series I have, where I'm gonna only recommend 2 in here because they're 2 of my favorites, and the rest of the series are like okay, but they have that fun lighthearted banter that Julia Quinn has, especially pretty much all this author's books, and she is a staple in the historical romance genre. That's Tessa Dare with her Spindle Cove series. So I feel like her Spindle Cove series isn't read as much as her Girl Meets Duke series or the Castles Ever After series. This one, I have two favorites, which is Any Duchess Will Do and then A Week to Be Wicked. So in Any Duchess Will Do, our hero is a duke and his mother's like, you need to get married. It's a common trope in historical romances. We see that in The Viscount Who Loved Me. He needs to get married for society reasons and like responsibilities. And so his mother basically kidnaps him and takes him to Spindle Cove, which is this place full of spinsters. She's like, pick a wife, any wife, and we're gonna bring her home. So to retaliate, he picks the barmaid, and she actually needs money to help her family out, and so she agrees. She's like, sure, because I will do this for my family. And the Duke strikes a deal with her though. He's like, you need to sabotage this and I'll give you money. So she is being trained by the mother to be a duchess, and she's sabotaging her time there, but then they fall in love, her and the Duke, and it's so good. And then A Week to Be Wicked is literally I laughed out loud so many times. It's laugh out loud funny. I was listening to the audiobook. I listen to a lot of my historicals on audio, so definitely check out your library with Libby and Hoopla. I use those two and read so many historicals. They have a lot. This one, our heroine is into, I think she's into fossils too, and so she has a big convention she wants to go to in Scotland. The hero needs a wife, and he wants to marry her sister, and she's like, absolutely no way, and somehow it turns into marry me instead, and he's like, no, and then she's like, well, I need to go to Scotland, and you're gonna take me, and he's like, no, but then he does, and he's terrified of coaches because his family died in a horrible coach accident that I think he was in, and so he won't travel by coach, so you have to figure out how to get there, and there's like the only one bed trope. They're attacked by highwaymen, and it is so funny. It is so funny. I love this one so much. They obviously fall in love on their way to Scotland, and I couldn't recommend Tessa Dare enough if you like the banter and wit of Julia Quinn's writing. That was a very long video, but those are my recommendations for books to read after you watch the Bridgerton show. If you're waiting for season 2, if you've already read the books and need something else, those are my recommendations. Make sure you follow me if you love historical romances, because I talk about them all the time. I'm in my moment now where all I want to do is read historicals. It's such an amazing genre, so please pick up more if you loved Bridgerton and appreciate our amazing covers that are on our historicals, because I love them so much. Clinch covers are what I want in my romances. So that's all I have. Let me know if you have any other recommendations. I'd love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.